Let's unbox the Black Series 6-inch figure of the Riot Scout Trooper from Jedi Survivor. Villa Varykino. If it's Star Wars, we collect it. Hello there. Thanks for visiting Villa Varykino. As a big fan of Star Wars video games, of course I absolutely love the Black Series Gaming Greats line. As a collector, of course, I'm always going to be drawn to the hero characters from the video games like Starkiller from The Force Unleashed and Cal Kestis from Jedi Fallen Order and Jedi Survivor. But recently I've really been enjoying picking up some of the army builder characters like this Riot Scout Trooper from Jedi Survivor, and I also recently picked up the Rocket Launcher Trooper from Jedi Fallen Order. It's really interesting to see iconic trooper characters that we know from the films like the Stormtrooper and the Scout Troopers, but with some really interesting and unique weaponry that we only see in the video games, and it really does make for some really fun Black Series toys. I'm going to be opening up this one very soon, so can't wait to get stuck in and open this one up. It comes with a baton and a shield, some really interesting and different accessories for a Scout Trooper. So thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Coming up very soon, I'll take the figure out of the box and take a closer look at all of those cool accessories and details. But first, let's go over the packaging one last time. This Riot Scout Trooper has the classic Black Series packaging style with a nice clear window and angled side art there. For the Gaming Greats line, we have this very pretty teal color, and it has here Star Wars Jedi Survivor in black text, and that accent color is used for the character name. Here we have Riot Scout Trooper. In the window, we can see the figure packaged there nicely with the baton and shield tucked in there at the side. We also have that interesting Gaming Greats sort of cut out indented section here for the sticker, something that we don't really see much across the Black Series line. We have this recessed section with the sticker applied. It's always worth trying to find one with a very nice tidy sticker if you are keeping yours packaged. Sometimes they can be just a little bit off center there. Generally, I am quite a fan of the side art panels for the Black Series line. This one in particular is not my favorite. The shield is so large and hides a lot of the character, and we've just got this sort of big block of weight. It's a little bit grabs your attention in perhaps not the best way. I feel like the character should be the highlight, not this large accessory. It just looks a little bit plain. I do like the detail in the background. We have a Star Destroyer and TIE Fighters looming in the background. And of course, I always do enjoy that accent color coming in towards the bottom. This one says Riot Scout Trooper there at the bottom. But yes, I just wish there wasn't so much of this white shield blocking the artwork of the character. On the back, we have that artwork again, and this time I think this looks better. We don't have so much of the shield. The character does look more like the focus here. I think this one works better. We have a blurb of the Riot Scout Trooper here on the back. Riot troopers are deployed wherever the Empire needs to put down insurrections. Armed with batons and heavy shields, there are few opponents who can penetrate their defenses or stand against their brutal strikes. We have that accent stripe here again on the back. This is number 14 from the Gaming Greats line from Star Wars Jedi Survivor. One thing that I think is interesting about the back of this one versus another Gaming Greats figure is you can see the Starkiller Black Series Gaming Greats figure from The Force Unleashed has the video game logo here. It says Star Wars Force Unleashed. Perhaps Hasbro thinks this helps Black Series collectors who are not as familiar with the video games recognize these games and the characters, though of course Starkiller probably needs no further introduction. But this one here, the Riot Scout Trooper from Jedi Survivor, does not feature the video game logo. We certainly have space here. It's not like it's going to cover any particular details. I just think it's interesting that the newer ones, this is number 26, has a nice video game logo there. I think it just adds a little bit more something extra to the back of the package there. So pop that one off to the side. Of course, pretty much standard Black Series packaging for the rest of the details. We have that side window, top window, lets in a good amount of light, perfect for keeping them in their boxes. I'm going to be taking this one out, so let's get stuck into it and check out the figure with all of the details. So now I have the Riot Scout Trooper and the accessories out of the packaging. We can take a closer look at the details. And before I get into the fine sculpting details, I am very curious to see if this is a different sculpt to the standard biker scout that we have from the Return of the Jedi. This is the new 40th Return of the Jedi carded figure. This one is still available here in New Zealand. It is a slightly older one now, but we can see that we still have the same articulation, which is not my favorite. We've still got these sort of pins for the articulation points that if we take a look at the Stormtrooper, this one is from 2018, and we can see that we have those pins for the hinges, and then later on they completely resculpted the Stormtrooper. This one is from the modern Mandalorian line, and we can see the improvement on the articulation and the overall improvement of the figure itself. So it's kind of interesting that after all of these years, we haven't got a new improved sculpt for the Scout Trooper / Biker Scout. This one is still the same one. So I'm going to go over the articulation, but I think it's interesting that looking at these two figures, they look to be the same in terms of all of the details, the articulation. One minor difference that I can see, obviously we've got a slightly different paint job. This one is weathered from Endor, but this one doesn't have the pouches that we see on the original Return of the Jedi Biker Scout. This one has pouches on the ab plate. This one, it's hard to see if the ab plate is the same and just doesn't have those pouches kind of glued on, or whether we have a new sculpted ab piece because it is covered by this sort of harness, and this one we've got different pouches there. So I can't quite tell if that piece has just simply been edited or it's a new sculpt, but everything else looks to be the same comparing it. I know this one's in plastic, but as best I can tell, the details on the helmet look the same. I can see the same articulation in the arms. It is a shame we don't have a new and improved Scout Trooper mold. Fingers crossed, maybe they'll come out with that one very soon. So I'll pop this one away and we can get stuck into looking at the details of this particular figure. So I think this one looks really fun. It looks obviously cleaner than the Return of the Jedi version, and we've got all these interesting extra details. So one of the things that really caught my eye was this kind of red wire running from what I guess is the sort of energy pack here on the back, running down to the arm, because of course they have this different weapon to hold. So this is not sort of glued on. I can swivel it around. Because this runs down the back of the arm, I'm a little bit worried about what happens when I bend this arm and sort of pull that around the corner. Generally, that's going to put a little bit of tension. I'm hoping that because we can swivel this, we can move it more to the outside of the arm. I know that this is just the way that it's sitting in the box, but yes, I'm hoping to be able to sort of turn that around so it's not going to pull tight over that elbow. And talking about the articulation, you know, with these pins, I just don't like the way that it kind of cuts in. We've got a really deep sort of crevice here, which just looks like a toy, not like a human arm here. We've got those two pins. It does mean that because we've got those 2 points of articulation rather than one, we do get a very tight articulation. If I can get both points to kind of move, we can get the like really tight in, like a human elbow. You can kind of pull it in there. Of course, it doesn't look like a human elbow because it's kind of doing 2 points rather than just one, but we can get the hand all the way up. So it kind of looks like he's like talking on a comlink or something like that with his hand up that high. So I get that we do have a good range of movement, especially if you were putting this one on a speeder bike. I understand that there would be some positives to having this much articulation if you're putting it on a speeder bike, but this one clearly doesn't. He doesn't have a vehicle. We're going to be putting him in a fairly standard pose. I think for the purposes of display, I would prefer a modern articulation style because we just don't have all of these sort of ugly pins. I do say that the black on black pins do hide a little bit better, but then we have these exposed sort of plastic points between the two sculpted elements. This is just pure articulation, this plastic piece here, joining these two sculpted components together. So it does look a lot more like a toy rather than a shrunk down figure. I love that toy photography where when you're looking at it, you can't really tell if it's somebody in costume or a toy. This is clearly going to look like a toy, no matter how good of a photographer you are. It's going to stand out looking like a toy. So I do like the movement here from the arms. I think this shoulder armor is going to stop us from going all the way up. this one is kind of tucked in under the harness strap. This one is sitting over. So I'm kind of curious to see. Yeah, that's really hitting. I can't move that one up. I'd have to really figure out if I can get that one up under the, I can get it to about there. And you can see that is pretty much hard against that harness there. The harness does have a little bit of give. I can move it around a little bit. It feels fixed in place. I can just make out, it looks like it is attached with a sort of a pig hole in here, which I can only assume is where the pouches on the original Return of the Jedi sculpt attach. So I can see that certainly around the waist, I'm not going to be able to move this side to side, but the shoulder straps are kind of, they're not attached to the shoulders. I can just move them. This one here, I can kind of move around and adjust a little bit. This shoulder bell is kind of, it's going to go up and over, and I really don't want to put too much tension on that one. So I'm not going to be doing any sort of high armed poses. I'm hoping we'll be able to do something cool with this unique weapon in a moment. I do really like this on the back. This is also feels very fixed in place. I can't move this around. I do like the detail here. I think this red wire detail here looks really cool, adding a little bit of something different. We've got genuinely tidy paint here on the front and on the helmet. One thing I noticed when I had the other Return of the Jedi one, this one doesn't have the little painted circle here on the side of the helmets. We can see that it is there in the part of the sculpt. It's very, very faint. Don't know if it's going to show up on camera. You might be able to see that one there, but it's not painted on this particular detail. Overall, because it's basically black and white, we don't have too much in the way of paint. We've got a little bit of cream and sort of buckle details on some of these straps and harnesses going on here. Generally pretty tidy. We've got a little bit of silver here on the back of the elbows and the lower body. Very clean, no weathering on these boots. We've got that sort of tan beige color for the soles. We do have the sort of boot holster here for the small biker scout trooper little blaster. This one does not come with that accessory. So I'm going to have to look at some game screenshots and figure out if they do actually carry a small blaster in their boot holster here. This one doesn't come with it. I think just for the sake of completeness, maybe it would have been fun just to include it. It's such a tiny accessory. I doubt it would have cost Hasbro that much more money to include a tiny accessory that they already have the mold for. But yeah, so I'm probably going to pose him more from the front so we can avoid the fact that he's got a holster with no weapon there. But yes, of course, that is going to be a remnant of the original mold. So we've got a lot of articulation here with the legs. So let's see how adventurous we can get with some of the posing. We've got that sort of upper torso rotation, but now we've got a harness. So not sure that we're really going to use that much for posing. It's just a little bit of side to side. I can't really. This box here is coming up right underneath that chest, so it's stopping me from doing anything forward and backwards there, which is fine. So these are quite rubbery, these sort of upper thigh armor plates, so I can still get the leg up nice and high, and I don't feel like I'm putting too much pressure there. Perhaps a little bit there, but I don't feel like it's impacting too much. And we've got some really interesting textures here. We've got a lot going on in the way of texture on these sort of pants here, but I can see it's a bit stiff, but we've got that rotation there. Hopefully you can see that. It is black on black. And then this looks like it is, I kind of wish the articulation line lined up with where the sort of the strap is sculpted. We can sort of see perhaps a little bit better here. There is a strap that's sculpted over the pants, but then the articulation line is above that. I know that they probably have very standardized placements for articulation, but I feel like it would just be perhaps a little bit cleaner if that articulation line was matched up with where this strap, because we've kind of got pants slash pants, harness strap, pants. It's kind of all of these different textures. At least it's black and it all kind of meshes together there in the end, but I think that would have been perhaps a little bit cleaner. That's just my thoughts. And I think We've got the same sort of thing going on here at the upper arm as well. I can turn that. Again, lots of articulation, probably very useful for putting this one on a vehicle. Less useful here, but we'll see how we go. Perhaps it's going to be really useful for holding on to that shield. So we've got those 2 pin points here on the knees as well. So getting one to bend is always easy. Getting the second one to bend is always trickier. I always feel like I'm going to snap the knee. There we go. So you can do some very bendy legs poses there. That looks a little bit odd. Again, if you're sitting down on a speeder bike, that's probably really useful. For standing up, I'm not going to use that much articulation. I think he looks better just sort of doing this bend with this particular knee joint. We don't really need to bend at that top one there. And pretty good, clicky ankles. It's all nice and white, so it all kind of blends together. I'm not mad at the articulation here. Just, yeah, at least the pins and everything are on the black. You've been very fortunate that it all kind of hides in here, but you can really see the cutout on the inside of that elbow. It just looks a little bit ugly. So I'm going to spend a bit of time trying to see if I can get some posing with the accessories to kind of hide this, because certainly if you bring the elbow up, we're going to be able to hide that a little bit better. It's now on the inside, so it doesn't look quite as weird. But overall, pretty cool. Of course, it is reusing a sculpt, but for troopers in particular, they all kind of look the same. Video games, comics, they try and make it look like the costumes that we see on screen. So of course, it shouldn't be too surprising that we have the standard Biker Scout mold used for this particular figure. So I'm just going to pop that one to the side so we can take a look at the accessories. I think this one is really fun, and it wasn't exactly clear tucked in the back of the box that this is a translucent window. You can see my hand through here. And we've got some points here to attach it to the figure. And these are kind of rubbery, which I'm hoping will mean that this won't be too hard to actually attach to our figure. So we've got sort of a little grip here for the arm to go through, and then the hand will hold on to this handle bit here. And we've got this really dark sort of gunmetal metallic finish across the top. And we can see that there is a lot of sort of pitting and surface texture to make it look like this thing has actually been used in battle. And even on the white, it's a little bit harder to see on the white, but the surface has got all of these little marks and dings like it's actually been used. The same sort of texture is up here on the metal section. It's just a little bit easier to see against that metal paint finish there. And yeah, the same sort of surface texture on the inside as well. We can particularly see it here. It's really quite fun. Not as glossy clean. It's certainly seen some use. So I think that's really fun. Can't wait to put that on the figure. And now we have the baton here. So in the box, this one was kind of, we've got this little translucent blue sort of electricity section here that's kind of moving around. I've seen online it's generally kind of up around the top. I kind of want to see if I can get it to kind of sit there. It kind of wants to just keep falling down, but it is all the way around. So I don't think I'm going to accidentally lose it off the end there, but it does kind of want to sit back down where it was on that thinner part. But I think that looks pretty cool. On the whole, it's made from, I want to say like a dark green. And it's got just a slightly kind of metallic speckle to the finish there. No other paint work. It is just that one color. I do like this effect here though. I think that looks really cool. So let's go and see how well he's going to hold this. This feels a little bit like a lightsaber grip, but I think this is thicker than the average lightsaber. So I'm a little bit anxious about how easily this character is going to hold it, because that looks like a pretty tight hand. And of course, we've got the fingers kind of curled in there, like holding a blaster pistol. I'm a little bit worried that that is going to be a very tight hand. We've got some articulation here of, you know, standard sort of movement for the hands, because I think that's going to be really useful for holding these two accessories. Very different to the standard Star Wars accessories. We're used to blaster pistols and lightsabers. These two are very different. So it's going to be interesting to see how well we're going to be able to pose these. So I'm a little bit worried. This one, I can't I don't think I'm going to be able to slip this off. I thought maybe it would be sort of like a split ring around the arm so I could take it off, pose the arm, and then snip it back on. This is a complete circle, and obviously this line is too tight. I can't get it over the end of the arm, so I'm a little bit anxious about moving this elbow. Oh, okay, there we go. Phew, okay, I was a little bit anxious about how tight that was going to pull. Moving at that wrist point, I can get it sort of around there so it's not pulling tight over the edge. This extension of the elbow armor was really going to try and sort of cut into that, so I'm glad I can pull that around the side there. So let's see how hard this is going to be to put this in his hand. I'm hoping this little sort of tapered bit at the end is going to be where we're going to be able to get this into the hand. Oh, very tight. Okay, there we go. Okay, so there's kind of like a little bit of a button part in the articulation. I've kind of tried to put his thumb near that. There we go. I think that looks pretty cool. He holds that a little bit easier than I thought. I thought that might be quite a mission to get that in there with his tight fingers, but yes, using the tapered end going in there between the fingers, I could push that in. That looks pretty cool. And of course, now we can do all sorts of fun poses with that. Let's get this shield on. So I'm going to try and see how well we can get this. I'm hoping because this is rubbery, we can kind of click it in to the hand. This is going to be a bit of an interesting one. Oh, okay. That wasn't too hard at all. Okay, so now I've got those clips around the forearm and he's holding that handle there. So we can get the shield in place, and it's going to be a little bit tricky to get it sort of fully posed. There we go. Wow, cool. That looks very different, doesn't it? You can kind of do it. There's a little bit of wiggle because those are rubbery on the inside. Now let's see how well he can stand up with all of these accessories on. There we go. Wow, that's pretty cool. So he can fully protect himself with a shield. There we go. That looks pretty cool. Okay, now I've got to get him to stand up because this is quite a heavy plastic accessory. There we go. Wow. I'm really enjoying the video game characters. We're getting such different accessories. They really do stand out when you put them on display with some of the other characters. So I do have the Cal Kestis figure from Jedi Survivor. I'll be able to put this one together on my display shelf. I really am enjoying these trooper variants. It's really quite fun. I'm really enjoying what Hasbro has been putting out with some of the video game ones and comic book variations. Of course, we can always do with more and more classic troopers. I really wish that I could army build some of these characters. It has been a long time since we've had a standard Scout trooper available in the Black Series line. The last one available for us here in New Zealand was that carded one, and I feel mean cutting Black Series figures off those gorgeous large 6-inch figure scale Kenner backing cards. I think they just look cooler on the cards. I want them in this kind of style packaging so I can just rip them out and army build them along with stormtroopers, you know, more like that. But I think this one looks awesome with that extra backpack and harness detail. We've got the bright red wire and the red sort of lens sort of window here on the shield. Suppose you could try and pose it up high to try and get it lined up with his visor there. I think it looks cool, kind of holding it sort of mid-torso, kind of like they had in the art there. Definitely a different looking figure for my collection. This looks really cool. Obviously, I'm still wishing they had improved the sculpting. I know the articulation is probably very good for putting on a vehicle, but I do wish for these particular figures where I'm not putting them on a vehicle, I would rather have the modern sort of sculpting style like we have for the Mandalorian Stormtrooper. This one is just absolutely fantastic. It would be fun to see the Biker Scout get that same update, but nevertheless, I think this is a really fun figure. I had a lot of fun checking out the accessories on this one, and it all came together really well. I was a little bit anxious about this and how well they were going to hold everything, but it all worked out really well. I'm really happy. What a fabulous addition to my Black Series collection. I'm absolutely loving the Gaming Greats line. So there you go. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today as I opened up another Star Wars collectible and had some fun. I hope you have a wonderful morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are in the galaxy, and let's hang out again very soon for more Star Wars fun. May the Force be with you. If you enjoyed this video, go ahead and give it a like, check out our other videos, and subscribe for alerts about new uploads. Thanks for watching, and may the Force be with you.